to first of all thank you all for coming out tonight, today. Today. We will get started. Most of this is going to be recorded, and we hope we'll have some really good questions and some really good information today. So I am Stephanie Van Vark, and this is the live version of Just Talking Business. We are here in this historic venue that I actually love and adore, which most of you know I love and adore most of the buildings around here. It was founded or built in 1913 by a black man who was from Georgia, Jeter Walker. I hope I said his name right. And in this majestic venue, there have been a plethora of entertainment on this stage. And today we get a chance to showcase what we can do, as well as showcase some young ladies in this community who are towners for life, who do great things and show us how to do this well each and every day. So without further ado, I would like to introduce them individually. I'm going to read because, you know, when you're dealing with women who are leaders, it's a lot to talk about. Our first guest is the City of Miami Chairman and District 5 Commissioner. She was the first Guyanese American to be elected in the City of Miami and the first to be named Chairwoman of the Commission. She has served her community as Chief of Constituent Services for a Miami-Dade County Commissioner and later as an executive with the Community Action Agency. She studied at Nova Southeastern University, earning her Juris Doctor degree and becoming a practicing attorney. She most recently served as president and CEO of the Martin Luther King Economic Development Corporation, where she managed meaningful community programs like Wheels to Work, which addresses transportation hardships for families in need of vehicles to function within their daily lives. So I would like to welcome Chairwoman Christine King. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Trina Harris. She is a mom of two beautiful girls, a businesswoman, and a community advocate. She's a towner for life, which means she was born in the heart of one of Florida's oldest black communities, Overtown. Trina earned a master's in public administration with a specialization in leadership and nonprofit management from the University of West Florida and a bachelor's degree in health service administration. She is proud of her experiences at Miami-Dade College. With over 15 years of relevant experience in nonprofit management, issue-based advocacy, and small business development, Trina is the new CEO of Touching Miami with Love, a community-driven nonprofit organization that offers holistic youth and family development program to nearly 400 youth and adults in Overtown and Homestead. Trina also owns Suite 110 Urban Wear, also here in Overtown. She is a council member of the Overtown Common Good Initiative launched in 2014 by the Allegheny Franciscan Ministries. She also serves as the executive and governance committee of the Underdeck. Meet Trina Harris. It's a mouthful, right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And finally, last but certainly not least, our host and sponsor today and director of the Black Archives and Historic Lyric Theater is Kamila Pritchett. Before becoming the director, she served as a development coordinator and then the operations and programming manager of the Lyric Theater. Prior to her work at the Black Archives, she worked as a journalist for a decade and then an outreach liaison for a maternal and infant health nonprofit organization. She received a bachelor's degree in English with a minor in African New World Studies from Florida International University and an associate's degree in journalism from Miami-Dade College. She is a member and president of the Greater Miami chapter of the Links Incorporated, as well as a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Meet Kamila Pritchett. How you doing? Thank you. Thank you, ladies, so much for agreeing to join us. So if anyone has seen the show, you know it's about entrepreneurship. The goal was really to figure out how entrepreneurs stay alive and stay successful from day to day. But at the core of every entrepreneur, there has to be some level of leadership. So today, I asked these three women to give us sort of the core of how they operate as leaders in their own right. They're all bosses, and all run a business of some kind. In one case, a part of the city. So I think you can't get any better people to show us how to lead in what we do each and every day. So thank you again. So I want this to be conversational. Jump in, chime in as you like. Let's start with, turn this around so I can see my questions. We'll start with, what is your definition of leadership?
Okay, I'll start with that. I'm also an entrepreneur because I have my own law firm.
Okay.
And it's a solo practitioner. I had to lead myself. How do I guide myself? And I think if I had to sum up leadership and leadership skills, the first thing I would say is that I lead with empathy and being nice. Because when you're responsible for other folks and what you do, no one likes a tyrant. And I don't think any business thrives with a tyrant at the helm. So I try to treat everyone the way I would like to be treated. And more importantly, I try to treat everyone the way I would have them treat my mother. Because that's what kind of keeps me in check. What am I saying? Can I say this with my mom standing right next to me? Am I treating someone the way I would want someone to treat my mother? And that's kind of my guiding principle to leadership. I don't know if that's a very appropriate or, very standard, great response, but that's what kind of guides me in my path to leadership. Am I conducting myself in such a way that my mother would be proud of me?
But you tapped on something kind of interesting there, that each leader has to guide themselves and sort of set their own parameters. So, you've come up with this formula. How have all of you come up with a formula of what you feel leadership will be on your path?
I think to what the commissioner said, leadership means people are following you, right? So you have to be accountable for everything that you're doing, because your decisions don't just impact you. Your decisions impact the people who are working under you. They impact the organization that you're leading and the community that you're serving. So you have to understand and have a big picture view when you're making your decisions, because you have to understand that it's going to impact more than just you. And you really are accountable for how your decisions, as even if it's things that people who are under your direction are doing, ultimately you're still accountable for those things as a leader. So you have to be prepared to take one on the chin for the bad just as much as stepping up for the good.
I agree with that. For me, I think it's being able to just show up. Because as a leader, you have to show up, and you have to show up for people, and you walk alongside of people as a leader. Being able to be vulnerable in your state of leadership is key for me. And being able to share kind of my story in my leadership has allowed me to be able to connect with the people who I'm walking alongside of, whether it's ministry or business, has been key for me.
Well, you mentioned vulnerability. That's probably one of the things that women are often credited for, and then in some cases dismissed for. Entrepreneurship, leadership is generally a man's game. How do you manage that? Have you found that you are experiencing challenges because of your gender, and how are you able to maneuver that in a way that is respectful, but at the same time very clear I'm the boss?
I wouldn't necessarily say I manage it. It's something that exists pretty much, when you get to certain levels, there are more men than women, but I feel like when you walk in the door and you're confident, you know what you're talking about, you're passionate about what you're doing, if the men in the room are of integrity, then you'll be respected. If they are not, then I'm not concerned with those men. I'm concerned about the task at hand. And I think that when you know what you're doing and you feel comfortable and confident enough in articulating that, then you are demanding respect. So that's, if there is management to it, that's how I manage myself, which is just to know that I know what I'm talking about, be open to interacting with others at the table in a way that is professional, and holding everybody to that same standard.
Yeah, I don't see it at this point of my life as a barrier in managing it. I look at the women that are on this stage today and the levels that we've been able to rise to. I look at the CEOs and the business owners in the audience that are women that are still rising tall and being able to knock down barriers each day without worrying about what the male dominance is at stake. So I think that is something that I don't manage. I don't make it a priority to think about at this point.
Well, I remember the first time that I realized the male dominance was in the courtroom. We'd have motion calendar. And I remember sitting in the courtroom and looking to my right and looking to my left. I was the only woman, not the only black woman, the only woman. And then I noticed that it was predominantly white males. There was one black male attorney. And I said, damn. I'm the only woman sitting here. But it didn't bother me because I had what they had. I had a law degree. I was admitted to the Florida bar just like they were. And I was working because I was in the courtroom working. But that moment for me crystallized there is a difference, and I am in a male-dominated career. But as long as I knew what I was doing, I was making a proper argument, and I was doing good work for my client, it didn't bother me. But I was also a solo practitioner, so I didn't have to compete, I would say, in a firm against men. I didn't have the cutthroat experiences that you sometimes hear of. But I've also learned that we don't have to compete against anyone. We compete maybe against ourselves, that, I hold myself to a certain standard, and that's who I'm competing with. I'm competing with a standard that I have, not against any male or any female, for that matter. And I have achieved a level of success that not many women have, but not because, again, I'm the smartest person in the room, because I'm not, or not because I've done anything extraordinary. It's because I do what I love, and that is evidenced through good work, because I've been fortunate in my career to do what I love. I love practicing law. I love serving the community, and I love being a public servant now. So I wake up every morning and I'm happy. And I think that propels me where I'm not competing. Like when I was running for office, the field was quite crowded, and I never looked at a poll, so I didn't know if I was doing well. I didn't know if I was doing not well. I went door to door, and that was my poll. So if I had a great day going door to door and meeting the residents of District 5, I slept well. If I didn't get to go, I felt a little anxious, but I'll be out there again. And that was my guide. So it's not competing, I don't think. And I think if you do what you love, and I try to express this to our young people, do what you love, and you'll be good at it, and everything will fall into place from there.
But what about the approach? I found as an entrepreneur sometimes, men will approach you in a way that is, oh, you're so pretty, you're so, almost complimentary, and that's lovely, but
Yes,
you're not
yeah.
quite
Okay.
equal to me.
Wait,
So
it
what is
depends. That depends. It depends if you're talking to, say, I don't know, 2010 Christine, or if you're speaking to 2023 Christine.
What's the difference?
2010 Christine, in my most polite, my softest voice, I would say, "You aren't afraid to speak to me like that?" And silence, pause. And they're looking at you like, what did she just say? Now, 1990s, Christine? Oh, that's
She
a
went
different
way
story.
back. You
That's
went
a
way back.
that's a different story. But 2023, Christine, she says, "Thank you."
And keep moving. Have you had some? Have either of you had any
Well,
occurrences like that?
you see, we are not just women, we're also black women. So in addition to, whatever issues you may say about, the men saying inappropriate things or whatever, but there's also the dismissiveness that just being of color that you get in certain spaces. So I think that for me, I'm kind of indifferent to those things the same way I would be indifferent to someone dismissing, assuming that I'm not in charge because I'm, a woman. Those things is kind of par for the course being black, and then it's kind of double down when you're a black woman. So sometimes you just learn to, unless it's completely egregious, I feel that not engaging to some of those comments, because some women do giggle and think that it's cute, and that perpetuates that type of behavior. So if I don't engage and keep on with the business that I'm there for, then hopefully that conveys the message that, that's not the conversation I'm trying to have.
I agree. The lack of engagement in those comments sets the bar, sets the standard. Because at the end of the day, the way certain women carry themselves, you may not get those snarkly remarks from men. But I can say, too, the early 2000s, a young girl from Overtown, you would have definitely got something a little different. So
We're going to have a conversation about these decade people here. That's the next show. So let's switch scripts a little bit. I sort of believe that there is a moment in everyone's life where the switch goes on and you kind of know who you are, the trajectory of where you're going. So can you tell me the moment you sort of felt like you were going to be a leader of something? And was it as bold as a situation presented itself and you stepped up, or just the trajectory you were going? How did you know? Go ahead.
It just that I woke up that day and that's what it was. You can. I feel like obviously I think all the experiences I had in my life have prepared me to lead, but I just think that in general my the way I came to this job, I've been at the Black Archives for 10 years. And like you read in my bio, when I first started working, I worked as a journalist. when I was in college, before I started doing journalism things, I was focused on something completely different. And as I worked through different years, I realized that what I was doing was I was choosing those jobs. You know, I was selecting something to do because of aspects or characteristics of that job that appealed to me. I was choosing those jobs. But then the Black Archives came about at an interesting time in my life. My father had just passed away. I was thinking about leaving the job that I was working at, and I was not sure where I was going to go. I came to an event at the Ward Rooming House celebrating the Happy Birthday Miami. And when I walked in, there was a big cardboard cutout of my grandfather when he was a radio host for WMBM back when it was a public affairs radio station. And I had always known that my grandfather, you know, had previously worked as the editor for the Tropical Dispatch, which was a Black-owned newspaper. And then my grandparents were, you know, they were popular, but I took for granted their role in the pioneer community in Miami. And by being exposed to the Black Archives at that event, it kind of opened my eyes up to a history of Miami that I had lived among, but totally not known about. So I feel like in that moment, this job selected me. And because I felt a personal connection to the history that I'm working to protect and preserve, that's what has driven me. So that is where my trajectory was taking me towards, you know, trying to invest in the history that I had not been connected to previously. And then because of that passion and because of that drive and because of the work that I poured into the organization is what made a way for this opportunity when it presented itself.
For me, the role of being a leader, I think, came when I lost my mom in high school. And I had to be the head of the household and take care of my younger sister. And from that moment, I knew I needed to step up. And it's about showing up, stepping up, and taking charge. And from that experience to, I mean, Stephanie, me and my husband started from selling shoes out of the trunk of our car and to opening a brick and mortar location here in the community of Overtown and stepping out on faith in that leadership role of, people thought I was crazy. You're opening a store where? In Overtown? Back in the early 2000s? What? But taking that role and turning it to a business that has evolved, that was the step when young people was like, when you're walking down the street or you're in the grocery store and you see young people and they're like, that is the owner of a business. She owns this store. Or she's my coach at the park. And they're looking up to me for guidance in leading. Or we're in the last second of a game and they're like, what are we doing? And you have people that are looking to you for guidance. I think in all of those little moments have been able to get me where I am today, to be stepping into the role of the CEO of an organization where I'm the first woman CEO, the first African American to hold a position at our organization. All of those moments are like, wow, this is here, this is happening, and this is my path.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice.
I can't point to any big aha moment. I could tell you that every part of my journey, I received a sign. I pray all the time, all day long. I was going to law school. I had to do the conditional program. It's a summer program, a 6-week summer program, and you had to get a certain grade to be accepted into law school. I went to Nova Southeastern University, Shepherd Broad Law Center. Every day, I would take the turnpike to get to school, pay. And I'm praying, and I say, one day, God, when I get into law school, I'm going to get a sun pass. And it's a week before finals, and I'm going to pay, and I see this big sign that says, get your sun pass. And I asked, at the time they had toll booth operators, and I asked the lady, I said, did you just put that sign up? She's like, no. I said, I pass by here every day. I've never seen this sign. And she says, no. Put my money, and I drive, and I say, thank you, God, because I knew I was going to pass that course, and I was going to law school. And that's how my life really has unfolded. When I worked for a Miami-Dade County commissioner, I called the commissioner. He had just gotten elected, and I called him and I asked him what was he going to do about cleaning up our community as he had promised. He asked me to make an appointment, come and meet with him, and he said, would you consider volunteering and helping me? And at the time, I had time on my hands, and I said, sure. I volunteered. I cleaned up lots. I got abandoned cars picked up. And he offered me a job. It's just how my career, my journey has unfolded. I remember I wanted my son to go to PACE, and I said, God, I need to make a little bit more money, and I'd like to be a professor. And I went to Barry University. I got my undergraduate degree from Barry University, and I was there. I needed to get my transcripts for the Florida Bar for my application. I needed to send my transcripts to them. And I went and I looked at the employment bulletin board. And a gentleman was standing there, and he's watching me looking at all the positions, and he said, what are you interested in? And I said, I'd like to be a professor, an adjunct professor. In what area of discipline? I'd like to teach American government. And I can't make this stuff up. He was the department head for the political science department, and he hired me on the spot.
Oh, wow. Very
And
cool.
that is just how my journey and my faith, and that being the adjunct professor gave me the little bit extra money I needed so my son could go to Pace High School.
Very cool, very cool. So let me ask, so we've talked about your journeys. Let me talk about your day. When you wake up in the morning, that might be more difficult to talk about, right? How do you start your day, and what's your plan for the day?
I have a routine.
Okay, okay.
I have a routine. I wake up and I pray. I say thank you, right? I told you I pray all day. I'm in the car praying. I'm sitting up here praying. I pray all the time. And I say a prayer, and I take some deep breaths. When I get out of bed, I stretch. Before I hit the bathroom, I stretch. And then, depending on what the day is, for me, my phone is on silent from 9 o'clock at night until 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm very protective of my time. So that time is for me to work out. That time is for me to organize my day. And now I find that I'm organizing my day before I go to bed. So I'm thinking about it, I guess, in my sleep. I read every night before I fall asleep. I read every day. And that's my morning routine. It's prayer. I open my eyes and I say, thank you, Lord, for this day. I am healthy. I am happy. I am love. And then I start praying for whoever I need to pray for. You know, pray for the community, pray for this person, that person. If I know somebody is going through something, I pray for them. And I stretch, because I don't know if any of you have noticed, but since I got my puppy, Cinnamon, when I wake her up in the morning, the first thing she does is stretch. The first thing she does is the puppy pose, and then she stretches out both of her back legs. And I thought, there's something to that. And so I stretch, and then, I go sit on the balcony, let some sun hit me, and it's just my private time. I read, maybe I check some emails, but all of that before I touch my phone or take a call or speak to anybody, it's my time. It's my personal, private time to get myself together to welcome the world.
That's actually something I'm aspiring to do, but I am a work in progress.
Definitely a work in progress. I think for me, it's waking up and being still for about 15 minutes, allowing my brain to kind of come out of the relaxed mode. Then I leave home. I go for an early walk / jog run by the Biscayne Bay, by the Miami Arena. Then I come back home, and on my walk, I'm worship, praying, reflecting, getting ready for my day. Back home, I'm in go mode. So I'm yelling at my daughter, saying, hurry up, you're late, we have to go. And then preparing either a smoothie or juicing. Juicing is new for me, so I just started. And juicing, and then I'm out the door. And my scroll through Overtown on my way to work. So saying hi to folks in the community, heading to the office, and my day gets started. And then after a long day, depending on if it's a late meeting, different meetings, whatever time I get home, relax, spend time with my daughter, call my daughter that's in college, check in on her, and then it's listening to an audiobook because I'm more of an audiobook listener instead of a reader. So it's my day.
So yes, I am still aspiring to some type of a routine, and I think it's adorable that you wake your dog up, but my dog wakes me up. And that's when it starts, and I don't have a choice but to immediately go walk him. And then there's coffee, and I usually am using the morning because, as you did mention, I'm the president of my chapter of Links, the Greater Miami chapter, so I will use the morning time to try to do work for that, check emails, respond to things, check work emails, and then I may plan my day, but it doesn't stay that way. But I do try to come up with a rough sketch of what I aspire my day to look like. And then by the time I start answering my phone, that changes. But, I do try to get as much checking of emails and reading of things done before I leave my house because it is very busy here. So, I can kind of have some things out of the way before whatever may come up comes up.
Okay. Have you ever had to pivot? I've got to talk through the microphone because I got in trouble a little earlier. Have you ever had to, so the core of the show is really about pivoting. You're having to change your trajectory in order to succeed, excel, thrive, even in some cases survive. Can you give an example of when you've had to pivot in your life along your journey professionally, and what was that like? How did you go about accomplishing your goal of getting where you need to be?
I think I had an early on pivot right out of, I thought I was going to the military right out of high school. And in my last physicals, I found that I had a heart murmur. So I wasn't able to go to the military. So at that time, I didn't apply for any colleges, any universities. And I stayed local and attended Miami-Dade College, which was an amazing experience and set me on a path. But that was a pivot for me because it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting to be a nurse, an RN in the Army, and then travel. I did continue with healthcare administration, but then I had a bigger pivot. Once I started volunteering, working with children, that changed my trajectory. I ended up leaving my full-time hospital employment, working in the blood bank, to working part-time with Parks and Recreation, City of Miami. And that put me on a course to serve children and youth in the community of Overtown. And through that journey, it changed my trajectory that now I'm able to serve more children and youth, not only in Overtown, but in Homestead, in the communities to really uplift young people. So leaving one field to the next was definitely a pivot for me. And I'm grateful for that. It's allowed me to impact the lives of many, and it's been impactful for me as well.
You found where you're supposed to be.
Well, I mentioned, I touched on before, I had started out in journalism, and I really liked journalism, but to be honest, I was writing at the late 90s, early 2000s, and my salary was very low. And I was it was the job that I transitioned to from college. I had been writing when I was in college. And when I graduated, I was doing entertainment writing. So it was fun having a press pass and going out. But then, I became an adult and had to take over my own bills. And, that cute salary wasn't cutting it. And so I really just made the pivot to working at this maternal infant and health nonprofit called Healthy Start, because I had a friend who worked there and I needed to make more money, which is still laughable that I went to a nonprofit to make more money. But I still wanted to do something I was passionate about, and I really enjoyed working with that demographic, with new mothers or expecting mothers, and doing health education in the community. I thought it was very important. But the leadership there was horrible. It was a stressful, very, very stressful job. And my father passed, and one of the things that he talked to me about before passing was finding something that I really was going to enjoy to do. He knew that that job was miserable. He said, you have the rest of your life to work. You need to make it something that doesn't feel like work. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I went to a staff meeting, and as a director, I would not suggest anybody leave their job in this way, but we went to a staff meeting, and the man was just standing there just on a roll talking about how, basically horrible everybody was, and you should be glad you all have jobs. And it was just like one of those moments where you just have clarity, like, why am I here? And after that day, I didn't return, and like a couple weeks later, when I said I went to that event where I saw my grandfather's cutout, I had spoken to Dr. Fields, and she was talking about the potential of the organization getting a new grant where they would be able to bring on new positions. So I quit my job on like a Tuesday, and Tim Barber, the former director here, called me in for like the next week, Thursday. So I still had like a check coming from the last job, and I just was like, well, because usually, my mom put it in my head, don't leave, you don't leave a job until you have another job. That was like insane. Right. But, I felt propelled by my father. Like, well, my dad said I need to be happy, so we're going to figure it out, He going to make a way.
So you had a Hollywood moment is what you had.
And it happened. I will say, I think he was looking out for me because he knew I would do crazy, erratic things like that. And he's like, I'm going to just let you slide on this one. And it ended up happening where I got the job, like a week later, and it worked out. And I came to the Black Archives and just fell in love with the work, fell in love with the history and the community. And that was pretty much the biggest pivot, because I feel like this is where I'm going to be.
And you tapped on something pretty interesting. You talked about how the leadership was really horrible, and I think we've all experienced a bad boss or two. As the leader, I tapped on something, didn't I? As the leader, who are some of your influences to maybe leaders you've had in the past that have helped you craft the leader you are today? And I'm going to ask you to do your own report card. How well do you think you're doing?
Well, I didn't have a big pivot moment. I think the big pivot moment for me in my life was the year I took off to be a full-time mom.
Okay.
Like, I could not do what I'm doing now if my children were little. So I was very involved with them. And when my baby girl was born, I was fortunate enough to be able to stay home for a whole year. And I loved every minute of being her mom and seeing her develop that year. And then I went to law school just after that. So she actually stayed home with one parent for the first 3 years of her life. And I nursed her for 18 months. I was a full-time mom.
I know that's right.
Yes, I was a full-time mom. And that was my big pivot moment. Like I said, the other moments in my life just kind of evolved, but I did learn from everyone. I am part of the Community Action Agency family. That's the department I transitioned to once I left the commissioner's office. They really instilled in me a sense of community, and I learned how to be a good leader from the good ones and the bad ones, what to do and what not to do. As well as when I was in law school, I learned from my professors the type of professor I wanted to be and the type of professor I didn't want to be. So I take all of the experiences, some might say were bad experiences, but I don't consider bad experiences. I consider them all opportunities to learn. And it shaped who I am, because that tyrant was not who I wanted to be. But the ones that were generous and giving, but you also get the work done. So you figure out a way to manage people in a way that you allow them to be great, which catapults you. Because what we do, we don't do without a team. And if you don't have a good team, you aren't any good. So I've along my journey, I've met one of the meanest women in this world.
In the whole world?
In the whole world. She still holds that title. She's the meanest woman I've ever met. And I said, I never want to be like that. Because some people in power use that power to step on your neck and make you feel small. And I felt for some of the folks that were my friends that weren't in the position that I was in, but they had to come to work every day because they had to take care of their family. So they came to work every day with anxiety, stressed out, worried. Nothing that they could do would be right, and you having someone yelling at you for no reason, and that's just not who I wanted to be. And I take all of those lessons, all of those opportunities, and I don't forget them. And it guides me and has shaped who I am.
So do you think your employees would say you're a great leader?
Christina? Well, you know, I can tell you everyone on my team, and they're not my employees, because I don't say that they work for me or I'm their boss or anything like that. We're a team, one band, one sound. And I love them. They all have my cell phone. They all independently can call me, text me, and they do. We have a group chat, and we talk to each other. We encourage each other. I send them articles that I read that I think they may enjoy. So, yeah, I'm the commissioner, but they're my family, and I love that. You know, I love that. I don't think that I would have anyone on my team that I wouldn't break bread with. And all of them, I enjoy being with all of them. I love hanging out with them, talking. We all have a great sense of humor, and that's what it is. Because public service and serving the community, it's fun, and I think everyone on my team loves it. I don't think anyone comes to work and they hate their job or they dread coming to work. And if they do, this isn't the right place for them. So they shouldn't, and I would help them. And I would hope, my team, if they say, I want to take a training on, I don't know what, absolutely. Because this should catapult them to wherever they want to be. And that's what I want to be, a catalyst for that. So.
Well, so throughout my different jobs, I've had good leadership, and as the commissioner said, I've also learned from poor leadership. I've learned different things institutionally. Everybody here knows my predecessor here, Tim, and that's where I learned a lot of the history of Overtown and just about the different relationships between, that would help me throughout this job. But for me as a woman leader, I will say a lot of the people who I've learned leadership skills from, I may not have worked for, but I do know specifically there are several sorors, some of my sorority sisters, who have been presidents or in leadership roles, and just me being in awe over the way, because, it is, you may not agree, but it may be a skill to manage a group of women, especially, professional women who are already leaders in their own industry, and just to watch how some women have been able to lead, especially leading groups of leaders, which is something that I'm doing in my capacity with the Links. And being able to find mentors in different groups that I'm associated in has really helped me to cultivate my leadership style.
And what's your A, B, C, D?
What would you say? I have staff in here. You guys can chime in.
We're putting y'all on the spot, right? We're putting y'all on the spot.
No, I mean, I feel like I have a great relationship with everybody that works at the Black Archives. We're very communicative with each other. I make sure, you can't do your best if I don't let you know what I'm expecting and be clear of that. And also, because I've been at the Black Archives for so long, every single person that works here knows that I can, will, and have done whatever it is that they're doing. I don't feel ever above any position here. I have cleaned toilets and other things, and I have written grants, and so from the rooter to the tutor, I am prepared to serve. And I feel and hope that everybody who works at the Black Archives understands that, and that will allow them to respect me as a supervisor, because they know that I'm not asking anyone to do something that I feel that I'm too good for.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. For me, growing through my organization, I was promoted 6 times into where I am now. And I started at different levels. So when you're plunging toilets and figuring out kind of why it's a leak and the kids have broken something, you have to get in it. And for me, all of those steps and phases has allowed me to walk and work alongside of my team, because I'm not successful without my team either. And we are, at our organization, we call it our TML family. And a part of that family, we have to make sure humans, people, are at the heart of what we do. And we humanize our interactions with one another, how we communicate, and also how we hold ourselves accountable. Because at the end of the day, as a leader, you have to make sure the level of accountability, not only for yourself, for your teammates and building them up, is key, because we would never want to do a disservice by the people who are under us by not holding them to a standard or to a level of accountability, because we're setting them up for failure. and we would never want to set up people that we're training up and growing up for failure. So for me, it's one of those things where I've learned of things that I would never want anyone to do to me as an employee. And I hold that heartily, never demeaning or disrespecting anyone or making someone embarrassed in public by talking to them in a demeaning way. I've witnessed those things on jobs, and it's horrible. And as a leader, that is something that will never take place under my watch. And if it does happen by someone else on the team, that will definitely be reprimanded. But we have to understand that people are human, and we all have lives, and we have expectations for ourselves, and failure does happen. And one of the big things with my team is that if they don't make a mistake, that means they're not trying hard enough. And we're not trying hard enough, because we're not pushing the envelope if we're not making mistakes. Because failure is inevitable.
And what is your report card?
My report card.
You
My
have no staff members here, right?
I mean, I have
Gotta be
I
put
have
on
a
the
board. I
spot.
have an actual one of my board members are sitting here
Oh,
in the
that's really
audience.
good.
So
That's
my
really
board
good right
member
there.
can definitely rate me on my report card for sure. But thank
Yay.
thank you.
Well, I think you ladies are all A+ in my book as well. I think we are coming to the end of the program, so I want to thank you so much for agreeing to do this. But before we go, are there any last words? I want to turn the last words over to you, even though I will have to say thank you to everyone else. But I want to turn the last words over to you.
I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for having this platform, because we need various avenues to reach people. And it is inspiring if you just touch one person by doing this. You've cemented your place in heaven.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I hope y'all heard that, right?
I agree. I mean, Stephanie, you've seen me grow up through this in this community, and I appreciate the way that you've been able to help me share my story. And a part of that story is a part of being a part of conversations like this and being in front of an audience with people who I've worked alongside of, lived life with. And it's an honor to just be in this space and this platform to be able to share. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Stephanie, I want to echo that. I mean, when we talked about doing this program here, the reason why I think it's important is because really, although, yes, we are women leaders, we're not unicorns. I mean, if you look in the audience right now, you have Celia, you have Nicole, I can't see, but there, we have other females who are leading, who Miss Jackie Bell. Oh, okay, Miss Jackie Bell. See, I can't see. That's why I don't call names. But and people who are leading in the community, who have led in the community, and we're here. And so hopefully this conversation will not only amplify our voices, but it will encourage other women to take that step forward, to continue to pushing forward, because there are opportunities for you, there are spaces for you, and we're here holding those spaces.
Thank you so very much again for agreeing to do this. I think, and I hope, I know I learned a lot. I kind of privately do a lot of this for myself so I can learn stuff. So I hope the audience did as well, and we will be, this was recorded, so we will be sharing this on 3 different platforms, I believe. So I thank you to our guests. Thank you to the audience for coming. Again, I think there were a couple of names thrown out, but definitely for ladies whose shoulders we've had to stand on in order to be leaders. We couldn't have done it without you, as well as, and again, Ms. Bell is an example of that. Again, I want to say thank you for this extraordinary venue. It is really a gem in this community, has always been. I look at it as the anchor for all things that's going to be happening. So please, I encourage everyone to come back to do everything you can in this venue. It is extraordinary. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, again, the Black Archives and the Lyric Theater, the City of Miami, I want to really say thank you for that. The Southeast Overtown Park West Community Redevelopment Agency. That's a mouthful, right? I'm so used
Oh,
to
it is.
I'm so used to saying CRA, but I want to thank them very much for their support. I want to thank Rory Lee, the county, Miami-Dade County, yes, because they have been very supportive of what we do here in this community. And my friend Jennifer for the breadsticks that she offered to everyone. Please take some with you. They are amazing. But also for being a supportive friend and sponsor as well. And to all my other friends in the audience, I do appreciate you for being here. So thank you so much, and I will see you all soon. Have a great day. Thanks for coming out.